I paid their rent, they paid me back in insults. I never expected a thank you. I knew better than to expect gratitude from certain people. But what I didn't expect, what I never saw coming, was the sheer level of disrespect that came after I helped them. It all started when my cousin, Jake, and his girlfriend, Leela, found themselves in trouble. They had been living in a small apartment in a not-so-great part of town, struggling to keep up with rent. Jake had lost his job, fired for showing up late too many times, and Leela wasn't making enough at her part-time gig to cover the bills. Every time I talked to them, they sounded more and more desperate. "We just need a little help," Jake had said over the phone one night. "Just until I find another job." I hesitated. I wasn't made of money. I had my own bills, my own responsibilities. But Jake and I had grown up together, practically like brothers, and even though he had always been reckless, I had a soft spot for him. "How much do you need?" I asked, already regretting it. "Just this month's rent," he said quickly. "Maybe next month too if I don't find something by then. I swear I'll pay you back." That was my first mistake, believing him. I wired him the money the next day. A little over $1,200, more than I should have given, but enough to keep them from getting evicted. When I told him it was done, he was ecstatic. "Man, you don't know how much this means to us," he said. "I promise I'll pay you back soon." "Just focus on getting back on your feet," I replied. "That's all that matters." At first, things seemed fine. Jake even sent me a few texts thanking me again, talking about job applications he was filling out, interviews he had lined up. It felt like he was trying. And then something shifted. The messages stopped coming. Calls went unanswered. I figured maybe he was busy, but then I saw something that made my stomach twist. Leela had posted a picture on social media, her and Jake at a fancy restaurant, drinks in hand, smiling like they didn't have a care in the world. The caption, "Much-needed date night, blessed." I stared at the picture, my jaw tightening. Date night, blessed. I had just paid their damn rent, and they were out celebrating. I gave it a few days, trying to tell myself I was overreacting. But then I saw another post, Leela showing off a brand new handbag, thanking Jake for the best surprise ever. My blood boiled. Where was my money? Where was the job search? Instead of getting back on their feet, they were acting like they had won the lottery. I shot Jake a text. "Hey man, just checking in. Any luck with the job hunt?" Hours passed, no response. The next day, I tried again. "Hey, let's talk. We should figure out the repayment plan." This time, he answered. "Dude, relax. I told you I'd pay you back." That was it. No explanation, no reassurance, just relax. I should have let it go, should have learned my lesson and walked away, but I wasn't going to let him play me like that. So I did something I knew he wouldn't like. I showed up at his apartment. When he opened the door, his expression shifted from surprise to annoyance in a matter of seconds. "What are you doing here?" he asked, barely stepping aside to let me in. "Checking in," I said, scanning the apartment. It looked clean, put together, no signs of the financial struggle he had made it seem like he was drowning in. "I haven't heard from you. Figured we should talk." Jake sighed, rubbing his temple. "Man, you're really pressing about this money. I told you, I'll get it to you when I can." Leela walked into the room then, glancing at me before rolling her eyes. "Oh my God, is this about the rent again?" I turned to her, incredulous. "Yes, it's about the rent, your rent that I paid." She scoffed, "It's not like you're broke." Something inside me snapped. "That's not the point. I helped you when you needed it, and instead of being responsible, you're out spending money like it was a gift." Jake threw up his hands. "Dude, it's our money. We can do what we want with it." "It was my money," I corrected, "and you said you'd pay it back." Leela laughed, crossing her arms. "You're acting like we scammed you or something." "Didn't you?" I shot back. "You begged for help, I gave it, and now I'm the bad guy for expecting some responsibility." Jake sighed dramatically. "Man, you're making a huge deal out of this. Just drop it." I stared at them, realization settling in like a weight in my chest. They never planned to pay me back. And worse, they thought I was an idiot for expecting them to. I turned for the door, shaking my head. You know what? Keep it. Consider it a lesson for me, not you, because you too, you'll never change. Leela snorted. Whatever, man, you're just bitter. I walked out without another word, slamming the door behind me. But I wasn't done. They thought they got away with it. They thought I'd just walk away and let it go. They were wrong. Walking away from their apartment that night, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Anger, obviously, frustration, maybe even a little embarrassment that I had let myself get played so easily, but more than anything, I felt determination. They thought they got away with it. They thought I was just going to eat the loss, let them mock me, let them laugh about how stupid I was for helping them. But they underestimated me. I wasn't about to let this slide. The next morning, I started by reaching out to a few mutual friends. I wasn't about to go on a smear campaign, but I wanted to see if Jake and Leela had pulled this kind of thing before. Turns out, I wasn't the first person they had taken advantage of. Yeah, man, one of our old buddies, Eric, told me over the phone. A few months ago, Jake borrowed like $500 from me, swore up and down he'd pay me back the next week. Never saw a dime, and when I asked about it, he ghosted me. Same here, another friend, Nate, admitted. Not as much, but he bummed money off me for gas, and then posted a picture of him and Leela at a bar that same night. Dude's a joke. I gritted my teeth. So this was a pattern, and I was the biggest sucker of them all since I had given them the most money. Well, that was about to change. First, I made sure everyone knew what they had done. Word spread fast. Mutual friends stopped inviting them to things. People stopped replying to their messages. It wasn't about revenge, it was about making sure no one else got played the way I had. And then, I took it a step further. I knew Jake wasn't looking for a job. He had no intention of actually pulling himself together. But I also knew something about him that he probably thought I forgot. He had lied on his lease application. See, when they moved into that apartment, Jake didn't actually have proof of income. He had used an old pay stub from a job he had already been fired from to get approved for the place. It was a little thing, but landlords don't take kindly to fraud. So I made an anonymous call to their building's management office. Just a concerned friend, wondering if they verified tenant employment. A week later, I heard through the grapevine that Jake and Leela had received a notice. They were being evicted. I won't lie, when I heard the news, I smiled. Jake called me the next day. I let it go to voicemail, but his message was a masterpiece of fake outrage. Wow, dude, real mature, you couldn't just let it go, huh? Had to go and ruin our lives. We're about to get kicked out and it's all because of you. I hope you're happy, you're pathetic. I listened to the message twice, shaking my head in disbelief. I was pathetic, me, the guy who had helped them. Nah. I called him back. The second he picked up, I said, let me get this straight. You take my money, refuse to pay me back, laugh in my face about it, and now I'm the bad guy. Jake didn't even deny it. You went too far. I laughed. Nah, man, too far is what you did. You had a choice, you could have handled things like an adult, but you didn't, and now you're dealing with the consequences. He was silent for a moment, and I almost thought he was going to admit defeat. But then he muttered, whatever, I don't need this. Good, I said, hanging up. A few weeks later, I ran into Leela at a grocery store. She looked different, tired, stressed. When she saw me, she hesitated, then walked over. You happy now? She asked bitterly. I raised an eyebrow. Excuse me. We lost the apartment. Jake's staying with a friend, and I had to move back in with my mom. It's been a nightmare. I shrugged. That's not my problem. She scoffed. Wow, you're just as petty as Jake said. I tilted my head. Petty? You mean like lying to people, taking their money, and then acting like a victim? Yeah, must be terrible to deal with that. Her face turned red, but she had nothing to say. She turned and walked away, muttering something under her breath. I didn't care. I had learned my lesson. Never help people who don't want to help themselves. And most importantly, never loan money to someone who treats you like an ATM instead of a friend. For weeks, I didn't hear from Jake. No texts, no calls, nothing. It was like he had disappeared off the face of the earth. And honestly, I was fine with that. After everything he and Leela had put me through, I had no interest in keeping them in my life. But then, late one night, my phone rang. I was half asleep when I saw his name flashing on my screen. For a moment, I debated letting it go to voicemail, but something told me to pick up. Hello. At first there was silence, then a deep sigh. Hey. It was Jake, but he didn't sound like himself. His voice was hoarse, almost hollow. What do you want? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. I messed up, he admitted, and I don't know what to do. I sat up, rubbing my temples. Messed up how? Everything, gone to hell, man, he muttered. After we got kicked out, I crashed with a friend for a while, but that didn't last long. Leela's staying with her mom, but I can't go there. I've been bouncing around, sleeping in my car most nights. I let his words settle. I should have felt some kind of sympathy, but after the way he had treated me, all I felt was exhaustion. What do you expect me to do about it, Jake? I don't know, he said, his voice breaking slightly. I don't have anyone else to call. And there it was, the desperation. The realization that he had burned every bridge, and now he was left with nothing. I exhaled slowly. You did this to yourself. I know, he said, barely above a whisper. And I get why you don't want to help me, but I'm out of options. Just give me a place to crash for a few nights, just until I figure things out. I clenched my jaw. The old me, the one who had bailated him out time and time again, would have said yes immediately. But I wasn't that guy anymore. I had learned my lesson. Still, against my better judgment, I found myself hesitating. If I let you stay, you need to prove you're serious about getting your life together. No more excuses. No more playing the victim. I swear, man, he said quickly. I'll do whatever it takes. I sighed. Fine, but this is your last chance. Jake showed up at my place the next day looking like hell. His clothes were wrinkled, his hair unkempt, and he had the kind of exhaustion in his eyes that only comes from hitting rock bottom. You look terrible, I said as he stepped inside. He gave a humorless laugh. Feel worse. I let him crash on my couch, but I made it clear this wasn't a free ride. If he wanted to stay, he had to actively look for a job, start fixing the mess he had made. No more games. At first, he seemed serious about it. He spent hours on his laptop applying for jobs, going to interviews, even picking up a few odd jobs for cash. It almost seemed like he was finally turning things around. But then, after a few weeks, the old Jake started creeping back in. I came home one night to find him sprawled on the couch, beer in hand, watching TV like he didn't have a care in the world. What are you doing? I asked, my patience wearing thin. Relaxing, he said, not even looking at me. I narrowed my eyes. Did you apply to any jobs today? He shrugged. I'll get to it. I felt my blood pressure rise. No, Jake, that's not how this works. I let you stay here because you said you were serious about getting your life together, not so you could sit on my couch and drink all day. He rolled his eyes. Dude, chill, I am looking for work, I just needed a break. A break from what? I snapped. From mooching off people, from making excuse after excuse. His expression darkened. Oh, here we go again. You're so damn righteous, acting like you're better than me. I stared at him, stunned. Are you serious right now? I'm the one who let you stay here, I didn't have to do that. Yeah, and you never let me forget it, he muttered. Every damn conversation turns into a lecture. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my cool. Because you never change, Jake. You always find a way to screw up and expect someone else to clean up your mess. He scoffed. Whatever, maybe I should just leave. I crossed my arms. Maybe you should. His face twisted, like he hadn't expected me to call his bluff. For a moment, he looked almost hurt. Then he grabbed his things and stormed toward the door. Screw you, man. You think you're better than everyone just because you have your life together. Newsflash, you're still just a miserable loser. I didn't react. I just watched as he slammed the door behind him, leaving for what I hoped was the last time. Jake didn't contact me after that. No texts, no calls. It was like he had vanished again, only this time I didn't care. Some people don't want to be saved. Some people have to learn the hard way. And I was done trying. I used to believe people could change, that if they hit rock bottom hard enough, they'd finally wake up and realize what they had to do. That was my mistake with Jake. I had given him chance after chance, hoping this time he would learn. But some people don't change. They don't grow, they just drag others down with them. And I wasn't about to let that happen to me again. A week after Jake stormed out of my apartment, I got a text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's me, can we talk?" I stared at the message, debating whether to ignore it, but I already knew who it was. "Jake." Against my better judgment, I replied. "About what?" The response came quickly. "I know I messed up, I just need to explain." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. I should have blocked him right then and there. But some part of me needed to hear what he had to say. If nothing else, I wanted to see if he was capable of taking responsibility for once in his life. "Fine, meet me at the diner on 8th. I arrived first, sitting in the back where I could watch the door. When Jake finally walked in, I barely recognized him. His face was thinner, his clothes more worn. He looked exhausted, but I wasn't about to let that make me forget everything he had done. He slid into the seat across from me. "Hey." I didn't return the greeting. "Talk." He let out a breath, tapping his fingers against the table. "I screwed up, I know that, and I shouldn't have said what I said to you that night." "Which part?" I asked dryly. "The part where you called me a miserable loser, or the part where you threw away another chance to fix your life?" He flinched. "Look, man, I was angry, I wasn't thinking, but I see things differently now. I need some help, just to get back on my feet." I clenched my jaw. "Unbelievable, you're here because you want something, again." He shook his head. "No, it's not like that, I lost my job at the temp agency. Leela's mom won't let me stay with them. I've got nothing, man, I need a place to crash, just for a few nights." I laughed, I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was the most predictable thing in the world. "You haven't changed at all, have you?" I said. "You didn't come here to make things right. You came here to use me again." Jake's face twisted. "That's not fair." "No, what is fair, Jake? Because let's recap. You took my money, lied to me, wasted every opportunity I gave you, and treated me like garbage when I finally had enough. And now you're back, asking for more. You don't see the pattern." He gritted his teeth. "You act like I wanted this, like I planned to end up like this." "No," I said, my voice calm but firm. "But every decision you've made has led you here, and I'm done paying for them." He stared at me for a long moment, then scoffed. "Wow, so that's it, you're just gonna turn your back on family." "Family," I repeated, shaking my head. "Family doesn't treat each other like this." Silence stretched between us. I could see it in his eyes, the realization that I wasn't going to cave, that I wasn't his safety net anymore. Finally he stood up. "Fine, I don't need you anyway." I didn't stop him. I didn't try to convince him to change. I just watched as he walked out of the diner, disappearing into the night. And this time, I knew it was for good. I never heard from Jake again. No more late-night calls, no more excuses. He was just gone. I don't know where he ended up, and I don't care to. What I do know is that I learned something important. Some people aren't meant to be saved. Some people will take and take, until there's nothing left of you. And sometimes, the best thing you can do, the only thing you can do, is walk away. For good. For weeks after Jake walked out of that diner, I kept waiting for the familiar cycle to repeat itself. The desperate text messages, the late-night calls, the excuses, the guilt trips, the manipulation. But they never came. This time, it seemed like he had finally gotten the message. And the strangest part, I didn't feel bad about it. There was no guilt, no second guessing, no tiny voice in the back of my head wondering if I had done the right thing. I knew I had. For the first time in years, I felt free. Cutting Jake out of my life had an unexpected ripple effect. Without the constant stress of his problems weighing me down, I started focusing on myself again. I threw myself into my work, reconnected with friends I had been neglecting, and started doing things I actually enjoyed, not things I felt obligated to do because I was trying to fix someone else's life. And people noticed. One evening, I was catching up with Eric, one of our old friends who had also been burned by Jake in the past. He had heard about what happened and wasn't surprised in the slightest. "Man, I don't know how you lasted as long as you did," he said, shaking his head. "Jake, been like this for years, always expecting people to clean up his mess. But you were like his personal ATM." I sighed, leaning back in my chair. I wanted to believe he'd change. Eric took a sip of his drink. "Yeah, well, he never had to, because you were always there to save him." That hit harder than I expected, because it was true. Jake had never learned responsibility because he had never needed to. There was always someone, me, Leela, his mom, one of our friends, who would swoop in at the last second and bail him out. And as long as that safety net existed, he was never going to stop falling. But now he had to figure it out on his own. And that wasn't my problem anymore. A few months passed, and for the first time in a long time, life felt good. Then, one afternoon, I got a message from an unknown number. "Hey, I don't expect you to answer this, but I just wanted to say I get it now. You were right, about everything." I stared at the text, my heart beating a little faster. I didn't need to check who it was from, I already knew. "Jake." Another message came through. "I messed up and I finally see that now. I don't blame you for cutting me off. I would have done the same thing, but I just wanted you to know I'm trying. I got a job. I'm staying at a shelter, saving up for my own place. It's not much, but it's something." I let out a slow breath, reading the words over and over. It was the first time Jake had ever admitted responsibility for anything in his life. And for the first time, it wasn't followed by an excuse or a request for money. He wasn't asking for anything, he was just telling me. I thought about responding, thought about saying I'm glad you're trying or good luck. But in the end, I didn't. Because I had already moved on, and whether Jake truly changed or not wasn't my burden to carry anymore. I deleted the message and put my phone away, a small smile playing at my lips. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. For the first time in years, I was free. And I wasn't looking back. Life didn't change overnight, but it changed in ways that truly mattered. Without Jake's constant chaos dragging me down, I felt lighter. The weight I had carried for years, the responsibility, the guilt, the obligation to fix what wasn't mine to fix, was finally gone. And with that, I was able to focus on something I had neglected for far too long, myself. I started picking up new hobbies, ones I had pushed aside while dealing with Jake's drama. I reconnected with people who actually appreciated me, people who didn't just take and take without giving anything back. And for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. One evening, months after Jake's last text, I ran into Leela. I was grabbing groceries when I spotted her down the aisle. She looked different, thinner, more tired. She hesitated when she saw me, like she wasn't sure if she should say anything. But then she walked over. "Hey," she said, forcing a small smile. "It's been a while." I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. "Yeah, it has." There was an awkward silence before she sighed. "I heard about Jake, about how he's trying to turn things around." I shrugged, good for him. She studied me for a moment. "You're really done with him, aren't you?" I met her gaze, no hesitation in my voice. "Yeah, I am." Leela nodded slowly, then let out a small chuckle. "I guess I didn't realize how much we both relied on you until you finally walked away." I didn't respond because there was nothing left to say. We weren't friends. We weren't anything, just two people with shared history and nothing more. She shifted uncomfortably, then muttered, "Well, take care." I nodded, "You too." And just like that, she was gone. But unlike before, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel bitterness. I just felt indifferent. And that was the final sign that I had truly moved on. Months turned into a year. My life kept moving, and I never looked back. Occasionally, I'd hear bits and pieces about Jake, how he had finally gotten a stable job, how he was still trying to rebuild his life. But it wasn't my concern anymore. One day, I got another text from him. Hey, I know I don't deserve to ask, but I'd like to grab coffee sometime. Just to talk, no favors, no money, just talk. I stared at the message, waiting for that familiar feeling of obligation to creep in. It didn't. I wasn't angry at Jake anymore. I wasn't even disappointed. I just had no reason to let him back in, and I knew that if I agreed to meet him, it would be like reopening a door I had fought so hard to close. So I didn't. I deleted the message without responding. Not out of spite, not out of hatred, but because some chapters aren't meant to be revisited. Some doors are meant to stay closed. And for the first time, I was perfectly fine with that. I had finally moved forward. And this time, there was no looking back.